So, although the time is a bit late, I would like to take one or two questions if there are any. Is there anybody who has questions? If there is nobody, then I'd like to give to pose a question to Professor Sommes about this population capacity of 60 million. How did you calculate, and then how you were effective of doing controlling the population coming inside the Istanbul?
Actually, of course, there is no any certain solution, but we are trying to take out the reason of the population immigration. So, which is the job, especially industrial job opportunity in Istanbul. So that's what we are trying to do, and to decrease the industry proportion of industry, to decrease the proportion of industry in Istanbul, and to direct to the other places, which it can be different centers in different places of Anatolia. So we have prepared a report about that as well, and we have sent to the central government about our proposal as well.
Thank you very much. So I would like to close this session and continue to the next session. Thank you.
Because of time constraints, we are skipping the coffee break, and now I'm inviting Kiyokazu Arai from Kyoto Seika University, and Rishad Muragildin from UFA, Axel Soba from Aachen Technical University, Yashiro Yamashita from Tokyo University, and Han Hoying from Zhejiang University to the stage. Thank you.
Okay, can someone turn the lights a little bit down, so it's going to be easy to see. Well, I would like to start session 3. Session 3 theme is the suburb and the agrarian landscape. And we have 4 speakers here today. And I think this session, we have really practiced in architect in the session. So we would like to see that what they are thinking about in terms of this the theme by their own idea for the urban and suburb agrarian landscape. Those are the solution, or they're trying to do to show to the people. I guess it's going to be fun. And in this session, I can see that the keywords, few keywords I would like to mention: identity, interpreting, environment, and the heritages. And would you please let the presenter come to the counter? You the person. Not that.
ここ見にくいですよね。見にくい。そこに行った方が見やすい。そうです。僕らはね。角度がそうね。そっちの方がいいですよね。あっちに座りましょう。
professor at IAA Moscow UFA. And his theme is looking for new Russian identity. Please go ahead.
Hello everyone. Our delegation from UFA have speech for two themes. First of all, today is developing of contemporary developing of capital of Bashkortostan, and tomorrow Professor Majitov, academician Majitov, will say about ancient city of Bashkortostan, city of Bashkort. So my title is looking for new identity. You know, from globalization we have so many comfortable and useful things like internet and you know, so many kinds. But we can't lose our identity. So in our work in the Ufa city, we try to find our own identity. First of all, I would like to say about Russian lifestyle. In the second half of 20th century, the Soviet people have two kinds of housing. First, the big one is prefabricated apartment building, and you can see around it nothing big, and one more, it's countryside. All Russians, all Soviet people likes countryside because there they can to be very free and on the nature. After perestroika and new years, we have huge development in Russia, and we have new buildings, new lifestyle. But lifestyle it's not changing. All the Russian people have two kinds of living: countryside, it's for rich men, and in the center of city. But not all the Russian people, maybe just 10% can to live and can to buy the rich apartments and to work in the good offices. But we try to find some middle one, some for to take some balance between money and the technology. So now we have state program in Russia, two programs. One of them low rise housing Russia or low Russia, and one more it's calls own house. So all architects in the Russia try to create the new housing, new houses for 21st century. So next one, I will try to explain, to give for everyone some information about our experience in Ufa. My company, Russian Raum Architects, and my partner, Mr. Arai Architects, won 3 competitions inside Ufa city, and tried to do some projects to find identity of the context. It's the first competition. It's town development, urban planning development of entrance on Ufa Peninsula. We won it in 205th. The best project of the Russian Federation in 206. This is the model. Next one is Congress Hall. We build it with using archetype of Bashkirian national culture. And third one is race core complex Akbazat. For designing, we're using also Bashkirian archetype of Bashkirian culture. This is a hotel near racecourse complex, and after we create so many projects in with using prototypes of context of the city, context of Bashkirian culture and Russian culture, and mix, and we continue to find identity of the city. It's Congress Hall. It's opening. You can find some friends here. This is our friends, Mr. Putin. These photographs from the Paris in the 2008 in UNESCO in Paris was the first first presentation of Bashkortostan Republic, and we will show the architectural corner. So this is one sample of the low-rise housing in the border of the urban structure and the nature in the Ufa city, but it's for the Richmonds. And my next talking about the housing for the usual people. It's nearest Ufa. It's for Richmonds too, but not so good. It's just business level of buildings. Here we use the good material, like special brick like this. It's very good for you know. And these things is for the program open house. We try in our republic. We try to do as it's like experiment. We would like to do as cheapest as possible, and here no architecture, no town planning. So I can show just this and some explain. For example, it's blocks. In Russia, in Ufa, we have some factory for these blocks, so these blocks not so expensive. For example, one building you can buy for about $40,000, because a land you can get without money, and infrastructure too. So it's construction, not so difficult. It's interior. And here you can find, it's like exhibition. You can choose building and buy it. This is one of the cheapest one. Use it build it with use it panels. It's from the other construction site. Very cheap. 2 levels, but you can leave it there. It's with cheap brick. It's good one brick. So for this program, Russia to plan to build so many factories for industrial construction from America, Canada, Austria. We will try to produce some unique technologies from Japan. But for example, in last year in Russia, it is constructed almost 8 million square meters of habitation. For the first time for the contemporary history of Russia, the share of low buildings has made more than 50%. So the low-rise housing will be built more and more. And one more problem, it's balance between design or urban planning, landscape design, and construction, and of course costs. So when we have been in this seminar with Mr. Arai and other specialists, we have negotiated, have to do the living style more aesthetic, and to find in this work own identity for each region of Russia. And by our opinion, the development of low housing have to be provided by architectural competition, attraction of the advanced work experience in architectural and town planning designing, modern technologies of building and manufacture of modern low energy buildings materials, up to industrial housing manufacture. The real price for realizing the program of Russian middle class segment have to be less than $1,000 for 1 square meter, then with all necessary engineering infrastructure. And we think it's possible if we will use experience from the whole world. For example, in Bashkiria, in the next month, we'll open the factory from the Austria, Lassesberger factories for 4,500 houses by year, 4 types of housing, and 95 square meters. These factories cost about $40 million, but housing, the types just only 4, and some part of Bashkiria and other part of Russia will looks like Austria. Maybe it's not so good. We have so many types. It's one of simple one. It's traditional one. It's and one of interesting thing and good one. Today, before May 18th, the President Medvedev makes decision to change with the Mercedes to Russian ZIL, giving a signal. It's giving a message and signal for all country about resoluteness and achievement of the purposes of country modernization and creation of the new Russian identity. So our president is young and very smart, and we believe him and hope for near future Russia can get own identity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. It was a surprise having my face on the board. And since we have been working together, I'm adding to his comment one project, which was the competition you have seen on this board. We won the competition, however, the authority of the government has been changed, then the project is gone. So that's kind of things. In order to do that, the scale kind of project, you need a kind of support from the government. But those are the kind of issue we have to talk about, because it's an individual thing you can do by yourself, but it's the urban, suburban issue have to be concerned as a whole point of view of the country or the region. That's I thought. Next speaker is going to be Axel Sohr. He's in at the Aachen Technical University. Please have your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being still here. It is late, and perhaps we are reaching a point of saturation. I will try to make it very short. So thank you for inviting me to Istanbul. I'm very pleased, and thank you, Arai-sensei, to chair the session. The speech I would like to give deals perhaps more with the failures and the mistakes, the misunderstandings of planning. In the end of my speech, I wouldn't express a welcome address to you, because I'm not from Saint-Denis. I'm not from the place I'm speaking about, and I'm using Saint-Denis more as a study, a case study, to show some problems that might occur when planning gets very voluntaristic. Today we heard a lot of voluntaristic speeches, trying to get population from the point A to the point B, trying to enhance the awareness of local identity. But what happens, so I might ask in this speech, what happens with the leftover, with everything, the waste of planning? So the point I will like to focus on is an intermediate point, a point in between a place of strong identity, which is Paris. You see it in the bottom of this image. And Saint-Denis, which is also a point of very strong identity that had been built up since the invention of Gothic architecture. You all know the story. So I will focus on this intermediate place, which is called La Banlieue, which from time to time appears in the world newspapers with burning cars and riots. But I don't want to speak about this. I want to speak about hope that can occur in this intermediate space. So La Plaine de Saint-Denis has been invested by fairs, trade fairs, many ways. For instance, the way leading from the Abbey of Saint-Denis to the center core of Paris, where the kings had to walk along. So this place is marked by passages, by travel, by transit, perhaps also by inundation, because you see on the left side of this image the La Seine, which from time to time goes over the borders. So this intermediate place has not been really built, perhaps because of wars, because of the terrain non edificandi, the distance that had been esteemed to be necessary between these two cities. So what happened, and this shows you the state of La Porte de Paris, de Saint-Denis, and if you look carefully, there's no porte. We are in the middle of the tabula rasa politics from the 50s, and also Saint-Denis didn't escape from it. There's a big roundabout in the foreground and then some bars in the background of this image. And you can see that immediately this vacant space had been filled up by a kind of horror vacui with infrastructure. So the main characteristics of this place is not building inhabited structure, but infrastructure which sustains the movement of people moving from one place to the other in this banlieue. If you look back to the development of these ways, I'm sorry, this is a bit not very sharp, but you can distinguish Saint-Denis on the top and Paris, and the different layers of the expansion of Paris, using the banlieue always like a kind of environment, like a non-defined space that can use the system like in a kind of metabolism. So you wouldn't define the organ as the place which is giving the resources, but in the other way around. So Paris was claiming for resources that had been provided by the banlieue. The place I would like to speak about had been depicted also in the 19th century in a very impressionistic manner, which you can see here. There is another infrastructure which is very important, not only for the equilibrium of the waterways between the Seine and the center of Paris, but also for the transport, which is Canal Saint-Denis. And this canal, you see it here in this map, runs actually from La Villette, which is in the bottom here, up to the north, and hits the river Seine, where you can see the word barrière. So there had been many, many layers. All this place in between Paris and Saint-Denis has been filled up over time by industries, by stadiums, recently for the World Cup in 1989, or motorways, which has been put up running over ground from La Porte de la Chapelle to the airport in the northeast of Paris. When you close down and look at this kind of mess, the big mess which is in between this ancient city core of Saint-Denis, up there with the cathedral, and La Plaine, then you see that there's, of course, an overlayering of many, many systems in which you cannot really distinguish any symbiotic attitude. So planification occurs in closed systems. The canal is one system, the motorway is one system, the stadium is one system, and of course the building of blocks, the right to the stadium, for instance, for commercial use, or on the left side, the remaining parts of the industry, which has been very important to Saint-Denis, which is still governed by a communist mayor. But this communist mayor, Patrick Brauzek, is also playing a double game, because he's developing real estate programs in the south of Saint-Denis to get new offices into the town, to build with this money social housing schemes in other parts of the city. So here again you see this the predominance of infrastructures which are crossing each other without any attention. So there's indifference from one system to the other. I think this is one of the characteristics of this banlieue. When you fly over the place, you can see the enormous extension. So the infrastructure really uses the rare space in a very extensive manner, and in between these spaces, when you go down, there are astonishing phenomena, because you have a huge basin which has been put there for the boats. They're able to turn around and to go back the other way. So they're charged with goods and go or to avoid the other boat coming down. So in between these areas, when you look down, then you have cut away from the motorway and the bus terminal, for instance, or the canal. You have spaces that the urban planners don't know. If you go to Saint-Denis and ask do you know this Bassin de la Maltournée? For them, it's only a white spot on the map, and they have never been there. But if you go and look around, then you find even places of a specific historic interest. For instance, Robert Doisneau, a famous photographer, has been wandering around and making photos in the time when Saint-Denis was still a very industrial town. And people tried to preserve this house only because it is one of these houses that had been photographed by Doisneau. And there is a type of local identity which is attached perhaps to this more ephemeral art photography than to the building structure. But then, once it occurred, there was a kind of campaign to maintain these remaining objects in this town. It has been even going down to these cobblestones you see on the left, because the inhabitants claimed for restoring the cobblestones in this area. I will focus on this little speech not only on the errors or the mistakes of planning, but also on the extreme political and conflictual character of planning. Because, as you know, there are no perfect solutions in planning. Horst Rittel, one of the famous planning theorists in Germany, characterized urban planning as a discipline where only nasty problems occur. So you cannot say, okay, it's like in mathematics, in the end there's no rest and it's fine. He said, in most cases, things are very political and conflictual. So what we found out is that there is an association doing a very curious thing. They didn't really prevent buildings, but they prevent the void space near the canal, because they said, La Maltournée, le bassin de la Maltournée, this is an open space which doesn't exist in the planning categories that planners normally use, like a space where you have playgrounds for children, or agriculture, or a zoning for industry or housing. It is only open space, and it is almost forgotten. But since it has been forgotten, people can go there and use it without climbing over fences or without paying anything. So what was very interesting for us and led us to the decision to go there with students to analyze this situation is the possibility of appropriation. Appropriation and participation had been the keywords of planning strategies in the 70s, and what we observed is that this vocabulary is coming back in a way, because people are fed up, I think, with the jargon of planification. They are fed up with the idea of Monsieur Sarkozy to densify in a very bold way all these areas around Paris and to make them look a bit like Paris. You can see these schemes all around in the new towns around. So perhaps there's another chance to do something in between all these infrastructures, which is from a different character and a different quality than everything we have learned in school or in planning lessons. So what happened then, due to the intervention of a local association maintaining this friche, the wasteland, the leftover, is that they did kind of animation for children, or they made these kind of festivals to dance, or they were cooking pancakes and all such things. And I'm sure that the opportunity of this open space enhanced much more the cohesion of the local tissue and the local network of this community, without using the word community, because it's a bit forbidden in France. Everybody is Republican and not communitarian. So in the background, again, you see this huge stadium, and once you are behind these trees, sitting here, you don't hear the motorway anymore. So what is interesting for us, and also what was an interesting thing for students, is the kind of to sharpen the perception for those spaces. So our work, here again you can see that even the local press recognized the qualities and saw that there's a defense against, and it appeared even in the national newspapers who were writing about this claim for openness and for another type of planning. But despite all this engagement, you have, of course, the necessity to fill up this land due to the requirements of more housing, more offices, better tramway connections. And you see here one of the building schemes which, in a very not very sensitive manner, just fills up the space with the axes, the crossings, all the vocabulary you know from the Haussmann Paris, and which might lead even to this kind of scenario, a projection of planning schemes that, of course, would erase of their, because of their aseptic character, all the richness you can find in this place, which hasn't been really wanted by anybody. So what is interesting in these leftover spaces is that they are completely opposite to the voluntaristic discourse. And if you look to these schemes, and of course with today's media, Photoshop and 3D studio, you can project all kind of, mostly paradises, like here the motorway is completely kept into this nature, and the greenery is climbing up the concrete pillars. So, but my question I would like to raise here is this the correct way to deal with these phenomena, the richness of the place you can find? And so we decided to make an excursion and a workshop on site, and all the students from Aachen University were housed in the places of the inhabitants. So immediately with the family contact, they could do something like a participatory ethnography. So they got in contact with the people, and one member of this association guided us through this labyrinth of infrastructures to discover places which hasn't been seen by any planner yet. And we hired a circus tent due to the contact we had with local inhabitants. So people provided us this tent and provided even a kind of motor to do plotting and drawing and printing under the tent, which you can see here. And the goals of our workshop was not to project another planning scenario, which is in any way utopian, because you cannot move away infrastructure, you cannot fill up the canal, you cannot erase the stadium. Things are there, they don't communicate, but what can you do? So we thought that there might be a new working method appropriate for these suburban scenarios and places. So our claim goes to a very attentive fieldwork. I have to, a multi-layered analysis, the observation and even communication with local actors, a survey of planning histories and conflictual scenarios, because there are only nasty problems and no easy problems in this field. And two terms I'm borrowing from landscape architect in France, Bernard Lassus, the inventive analysis, so a project springing off a very precise analysis and trying to be minimal in the intervention in order to preserve the qualities already found in a place. Thank you very much.
I am working in Tokyo under my hometown, Amami-Oshima, very small island, so very beautiful sea. Okay. These are the three principal keywords in my recent works: time and cross-culture and environment. By using this keyword, we are running a series of projects names relocation project. Relocation means not only using some building parts for other context. Context stands for different time or different culture. By relocating or use materials to other context, the value could be upgraded. This is why I propose a method of relocation. I would like to start presenting you a selection of my works and explain you the concepts behind the projects. Okay. Now we have 30 to 40% of vacant house. Okay. And so if those houses got demolished, CO2 will be increased in high rate. For example, from 165 square meter wooden house, about 30 tons of wood and 20 tons of other materials will be wasted. This will be converted to 30 tons of CO2. Environment being principal keyword of my works. I thought, why not using this old Japanese traditional house for my project? Okay. For example, one project, the Millennium Pavilion in Gondar. The name of this project is Millennium Gondar. This project was ordered by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan through Professor Miyake. The main theme of this project was to supply lifeline and promote traditional technique. The site of project is in Ethiopia. The town named Gondar, second city. This is entrance. This is the interior scene of Japanese pavilion. This is interior of Ethiopia pavilion. For ceiling, we use local traditional technique of waving bamboo, which we defer to design of the old local church. The slit between wall and ceiling is where we plot glass blocks made by Japan. This space is cross-culture because Ethiopia and Japanese traditional material and method of both countries. Okay. I designed Japan Pavilion as a social, cultural place, and the Ethiopia Pavilion as both a gallery and a local water supply base. The natural depuration system of rainwater was installed to the pavilion. For Japan Pavilion, the structure of all Japanese house was used, and local workers assembled them under direction of architect for Ethiopia Pavilion. The materials of abundant Ethiopian traditional round-shaped house were brought in and rebuilt by local construction method. Glass blocks were installed on top so that the sunlight comes into the gallery, and it is effective to visualize time. The sunlight soak into the 100 years old. Building means integration of now and 100 years ago. Okay. So this is Paris project, but third project, the construction of old and new materials emphasize the theme of time. We developed a wall with a function, reinforcing, conditioning humidity, and inserting to be as thin as possible in order to keep bigger space inside. For finishing of the old materials, we tried to keep original texture, but it was necessary to use colored protection paint to repairing for ant and salt damage. So two old storage moved to another place. Black material is old, so white is new. Reinforce new materials reinforce to this building. Okay. From this site, I would like to show you some workshop I've done with universities. This is urban designing workshop I've been doing for 3 years with Keio University. We are studying to create a town beauty and healthy. To get beauty and health by agri activity. Planning, touching, okay. Three method, three keyword: old house structure and relocation. Bring in agriculture and passive energy. Also, okay. These are the goal of this town. Okay. Last year we had an exhibition, a big model. Traditional house moved to another place, and new materials cover. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. It was nice, the realistic approach he's been doing, particularly like agri activity or relocation is a kind of interesting words, keywords we can mention too. Well, next is going to be final presented today. He's associate professor at Hanyang University. Howing, is that right? Please have your presentation start.
Thanks for being here. I'm Hao Han, associate professor from Zhejiang University, which is located in Hangzhou, very famous Chinese city. So really, when you plan a trip somewhere in China, what comes to your mind first? I think for many Chinese people, the answer is Hangzhou. And Hangzhou is so famous for its cultural and historical heritages. And there's a saying that there's paradise in the heaven, and there's Suzhou and Hangzhou on the earth. And Suzhou is another city. Here's a map to show where Hangzhou is. It's in the Yangtze Delta, very near to Shanghai. And it's actually 180 kilometers from Shanghai and 250 kilometers from Nanjing, another Chinese, very big Chinese city in the Yangtze Delta. And Hangzhou is the capital of Zhejiang province, which is one of the richest provinces in China and has the highest GDP per capita of all the 22 provinces in mainland China. And it's also, I mean, when we talk about Hangzhou, there are 3 levels. Hangzhou municipality is one of the 11 municipalities in Zhejiang province. So there's no list. And then the 8 urban districts of Hangzhou usually is defined as the Hangzhou city, has an area of 3,000 square kilometers. And then the 6 urban districts in the central part, usually we call it the central city of Hangzhou. And some information about Hangzhou. Hangzhou is the historical capital of the southern Song dynasty, which is about 800 to 900 years ago. And is most famous for the West Lake. It's a very famous in China. So every Chinese know the West Lake. And the Grand Canal is from Beijing to Hangzhou. It's very long. And China is also the best tourist destination for many years, at least 2006, 2007. And Forbes China also is Forbes China's best business city for 5 years. And then in the year 2001, it's nominated as the, I think it got the United Nations Habitat Growth of Honor for its radical improvement in the urban environment by large-scale investment in housing and infrastructure. So I think you can see many sides of Hangzhou. Has a lot of heritage, historical heritages. It's also very, at least trying to be a very modernized city. So a lot of public investment. And when compare Hangzhou with some other big cities in China, so here's some basic data. Hangzhou has an, so Hangzhou, Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou are 3 core cities of 3 biggest metropolitan areas in China, from north to central, and then another in the south near Hong Kong. It's Guangzhou. Hangzhou has a similar area to Beijing. It's about 16,000 square kilometers, but the population is much smaller. It's a little bit more than 6 million. And actually the density is also lower. But the GDP per capita is even higher than that in Beijing, and similar to that in Shanghai. So it's a very actually rich city in China. In recent years, there are many challenges, like the traditional city images getting lost, and the utilization of traditional heritages are not very good because of some modern constructions. And there are also a dramatic increase of automobiles because of rapid urbanization and suburbanization, or vice versa. And the absence of city master plans and high housing prices. So the Hangzhou municipal government is trying to develop many measures to make the city better. First part is how to preserve cultural and natural heritages in Hangzhou. So the idea, basic idea of the municipal government is that we should preserve something for development. So we should make benefits. Then we want to preserve. Otherwise, we will not preserve. So this kind of logic. And the government is trying to make the West Lake and Grand Canal inscribed on the World Heritage List. I think this year, these two places are applying to be nominated, but not decided. This is an image of the area near the West Lake. So in the northwest and south part, the landscape are very well preserved. But on the east part, I mean, there are many constructions because the city is there. Here are some historical images of the West Lake. So many Chinese people like it very much because many historical stories and very good sceneries. But on the east side of the city, there are so many high rises, and the sky lines are becoming very ugly. So I don't know how the government should deal with that. But if we apply, I mean, Hangzhou wants to be nominated as a World Heritage of the West Lake, we have to do something with this part. And there are some very preservation plans for the area near the West Lake. Basically, there's a very simple one. We use some control on the automobile numbers. Like, I mean, the old days, I mean, only the automobiles with the number of odd numbers, with odd numbers can go inside this place. And for example, May 2nd, May 4th, you can only, I mean, only the automobiles with number 2, 4, 6 can enter. But if the number is 1, 3, 5, you can't enter this place. So the automobiles are actually limited in this area. This is a very direct control. But for the other things, we're still waiting. And this is the image of the Grand Canal in part of Hangzhou. So the government is also trying to promote I mean, the water baths on this canal, trying to do also some redevelopment in this region. And in recent years, there is very rapid urbanization. So the central city is growing very fast. And the suburban urbanization is also very evident because of the increase of urban districts, because some county areas were converted into urban areas. So the urbanization happened in those places. Here are some maps showing the expansion of Hangzhou, the built-up area of Hangzhou. So in the southeast part, there used to be the administration of another city. But later, that city was incorporated into Hangzhou municipality, and a lot of constructions happened here in recent years. And the population change, because of very good sceneries and landscape, Hangzhou has always attracted a lot of people to live here. But in 3 tiers, the central city, inner suburb, and outer suburb, actually the central city grows very, very fast, faster than the other 2 places. Not like things in the, for example, in the United States, the suburb is growing very fast. But in China, the central cities, most of the central cities are growing. Hangzhou is also like that. But and also the city growth occurs in many places, but several factors have promoted such kind of process. Like there are many very big university parks. Like my university is one of the biggest in China. So it has over 40,000 students in Hangzhou city. So this campus is also very big, several square kilometers. It's going to be 5, maybe later to 10 square kilometers, very big. It's west part. And east part, there are 14 university campuses. So the students is 1.5 million. So, and also there are some high tech towns in southern part. So the city basically grow, by this, according to these reasons. And here is a map of the new campus of my university. It's over 2 square kilometers. And there's even the government is, the university is also trying to construct another one to the west of this park, which is going to be 3 square kilometers, even bigger than this one. So we have huge areas of university, just for university. And motor vehicles, especially the automobiles, increased very rapidly in recent years. Now we only have the data until 2008. So from 2000 to 2008, I think the numbers increased by 3 times. The numbers of motor vehicles and also automobiles increased very, very fast. And then how the government deal with them? So Hangzhou is trying to use the technology, the techniques from all over the world. So we introduced the free and rental bicycles system. This system in Hangzhou, the system in Hangzhou might be the biggest all over the world. And I think this year there's altogether 1,000 rental bicycle stops and over 200,000 rental bicycles in the city. And there's also the BRT, bus rapid transit system, similar to that in somewhere else, in another place. And the bus rapid transit route is also very long. It's going to be more than 100 kilometers. So here there are some special lanes for the BRT. You can see that BRT road. And there's also a very long route for the water bus. So now it's basically for tourists, but the government is trying to promote for for everyday use. Actually, in Hangzhou City, in China we have a city plan, master plan. A city master plan is required for each city, and also there's a land use master plan. The city master plan is the most important for the urban area. But in Hangzhou, from 2000 to 2007, there's actually no city master plans. But how can the city manage that? So although this plan is not approved by the central government, but the city can also develop some strategies, spatial strategies, by drawing very clear maps. And this is a map of the current land use in Hangzhou in 2003. And then in 2020, the city is growing, supposed to be like this. And there's very, very clear structure. Central city, 3 sub-cities, sub-central cities, and 6 urban fringe clusters. So the city is going to expand from the area around the West Lake to the areas on both sides of the Shanghai River. And also very clear plans for the transportation system. So there are 2 rings actually. We already have the first ring, the inner ring, and the government is also trying to construct another one. So a lot of investment is in transportation. And there's also land use master plan. So when there's no city master plan, the land use master plan can also take into effect. And the last factor, and the most important, for such a city, there are always many people want to live in this city. So, but the very direct result, I think, for many metropolitan areas, is that the housing price becomes very, very high, especially in such a city like Hangzhou. According to the study of the United Nations in the year 2001, used the data in 1998, the price to income ratio ratio in many countries. I mean, China, comparing with the figure in the other countries, China is, I mean, the PRR in China is not very high. But actually, here is some data 2004, because we can only get such data from the government this year. So Hangzhou ranked the second of all the important cities in China. So it means, it means you have to spend a lot of money, much more money than to buy a house than in the other countries, especially than. Here's a more detailed study. The houses are classified into 5 groups according to the price, and the households are also divided into classified into 5 groups, and then we can find the middle is 16. It's even higher than the previous one. Comparing with the data, the PIR in Beijing and Guangzhou, I think Hangzhou is much higher, 16 to 10 or 11, like this. But how is the housing price in recent years? So I have to, because there's no government official data from the government, I have to use my own case to show how difficult it is to buy a house. So here's my picture, and I used my income and my annual dispersal to explain. I mean, the maximum investment in housing for me each year in Chinese yuan is about 45,000 Chinese yuan. It means I don't buy anything else. I just pay for the house and for the food, for the basic food. The maximum of money I can save is this big. But if I buy a house, here's a place in the suburban areas of Hangzhou. It's quite far from the central city, about 1 hour's drive, and it's out of the ring road, the west part. Some images of such a house might not be very good in China. I think it's very, very, very normal one, ordinary one. There are much better houses in China. And the 2DK house usually is 90 square meters. And the price is 9,000 Chinese yuan per square meter. And how many years do it take for me to buy such a house? 17 years. It means I don't buy anything else. I have to save the money for 17 years. But there's an assumption that my annual income surplus could increase at the same rate as the interest rate of the bank. So then we can use the simple calculation to calculate this. And for a bigger one, 130 square meters, it will take me 24 years. So it's horrible, actually. I mean, in the United States, you only take only 3 to 5 years to buy a house using a salary. But here it's horrible. And then how to solve this? The government provides some government subsidized housing program. There are 4 programs, like the low rent public houses for the lowest income people, and then affordable houses, limited price commercial houses, and new houses for the residents in dangerous and old houses. And for the Hangzhou municipal government has a plan of housing. So the requirement is that the construction area of different government subsidized houses should be over 30% of all the houses, but actually never takes into function. And also, to construct a lot of over 100,000 government subsidized housing units, which means 5% of the municipal permanent population. And then here's another, the maps of these government subsidized houses. But basically it's in the ring road. I mean, the location is very good, very near to the West Lake. Here the circles the West Lake. And then some pictures of these houses seem to be not very bad. Here's another example. There's such a program in my university. My university can provide a government subsidized house, actually a affordable house, for the university faculty members. And then the place is here. Inside is better than the previous two. And then for the affordable housing, 3DK one is it will take me 10 years, only 10 years. But if it is a commercial housing, ordinary housing, it will take me 52 years. So we can benefit a lot from this program. But the problem is that how to identify the person, who is qualified and who is not qualified. In China, it's very difficult and it's not working very well, although the program seems to be good. So the conclusion is that Hangzhou is trying to introduce a lot of things from Western country, from learning from the West, like the rental bicycle system, to improve the transportation, and some government subsidized housing program. It's also learned from the other Western countries. But to combine different measures is kind of innovation. So how to handle such kind of problem. So we have a lot of gains, the rapid growth of economy and income and better city amenities to some extent, because we have better salary. But the loss is that traditional cityscape and lifestyle is changed, and longer commuting time and less affordable housing. So if such kind of development is sustainable or not, because we are always talking about sustainable. But I think for many Chinese people, we will say yes at this present situation. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry rushing your presentation so quick. This is the end of the today's session, and any comment from any question? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to ask to Professor Howie. Professor Howie, I was just wondering. I think there used to be some rules in China, some restrictions when people move around China, yeah?
Yes.
There used to be, such as if you move to somewhere else, you have restriction to use the facilities, social or health facilities, education facilities. I wonder if you have any restriction now, or just free, people can move everywhere they like.
Actually, we still have such kind of limitations, but the control is becoming much looser than before. Because in many cities, in Beijing, in Shanghai, the biggest cities of China, and because of some political reasons, it's very difficult to be the permanent resident in such a city. So there is a huge, we call floating population in those cities. In Beijing, it's over 4 million. In Shanghai, I think similar. But in Hangzhou, it's also very big, such kind of population. But in some other cities, smaller cities, if you buy a house in the city, you can get a permanent residence. So the city is becoming, good to live for some rich people, only for some rich people. So the government will not, limit such people to live in the city, because the city can get better revenue. Because China is, in transition from 1978 to now. There is huge transition, the whole political system. So I think the final goal of the government is that we will not use such kind of limitation in future, but we don't know which year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Well, I would like to close the session. I would like to say thank you for speakers today in session 3. Thank you.
Today's meetings are over. There is a bus at 6 o'clock which is taking off from the entrance of the school, which will take us to the dinner place. There is a gala dinner tonight. So if we can meet up there at 6 o'clock, it will be very fine. Thank you for your patience. Thanks.
So now I'm starting. Good morning. My name is Matsubara from Japan. Now we are opening the session 4, Creativity and Local Governance. So just introduce myself a little bit. I'm Japanese and who lives in China. I'm practicing architecture in Beijing, China, and also I'm teaching at the University Keio, Tokyo, Japan. So for our session, I prepared very simple axes to think about our subject. I prepared 2 axes to think about the local in the information age. So the first axis is a kind of the capital and local. Like Istanbul is the capital of Turkey, and there are lots of local cities. In our information age, so how can we emphasize the superiority of the local city to capital metropolis? This is one of the, I think it's one of the very important subject for us in this session. The second axis to think about the local in the information age is global and local. So now we are living in the globalization, the age of globalization, and there are lots of similarity whole globes. What kind of locality can we still find in the globalized world? This is the second questions which I want to ask for speakers. We have 4 groups and individuals from all over the world. They are discussing, they are presenting something about the locality, local governance and creativity. Professor Bonsam is from the National University of Singapore. She will introduce something about her research works in Bangkok and Tokyo. Professor Dostor from Bursa, she is introducing about some creativity of the city of Bursa. Bursa is also the 4th largest city in Turkey. Professor Marhov and Repina, they are from Samara State University in Russia, and they did very interesting artistic works in Samara, and they will show their works today. Professor Nouriga from Montpellier, France, she also did very interesting artworks in the city of Montpellier, and maybe we can see very interesting locality in her work. Sorry, I just introduced 2 of my work, some events which I involved recently. Maybe give me only for 5 minutes. The first one is Asia Studio in Bursa. So it was held last week. We did it with Professor Dostor. She will present later about this presentation, so I will just shortly speaking about this one. Anyway, at that I mentioned 2 axes. One is the capital and local. This workshop will is very close to this axis, I think. So last week, I just arrived. Before arriving Istanbul, I went to the city of Bursa and participate the workshop as an instructor. This workshop was held by 3 universities: Urdag University Bursa, and Tokyo University Sendai, and Tsinghua University Beijing. And host university Urdag University, gave us very interesting subject to think to revitalize the small village called Misi, is located near from Bursa. This is a photograph of the village. Even that village is very very old village, and they have lots of registered cultural wooden houses, but most of them are that kind of abandoned. You can see the photos. And also they have a small river in the middle of this village, and even now people just enjoy and relaxing the riverside. So they have many possibilities. But also the old building are abandoned. So this is a kind of contradiction, and so the students and we must think about that. This photograph shows the student working. This is a kind of multicultural, three nationalities work together to do the design proposal only during 4 days. And the right lower part, this is a photo of the time of goodbye. After the farewell party, so they're just crying they really started to separate, because most of the students stayed in the local families, and their relations are very strong, and it was very nice to communicate between foreign students and local people. We had a final presentation in the outside, in the center of the amphitheater of the village, and it's really interesting. It's very good experience, because lots of local host families which received the students came to the final presentation, and after the presentation, we had a question-answer time. The local people just very understand very deeply about the students' work, and they start to discuss with the village governors, and they said, so basically, students such interesting to understand our problem, but why shall you will you resolve these problems? And governor said, so maybe I will do sometimes something. I think it's this kind of activity or event stimulate the community between local and government. It's very good experience, and how to say, it's only the local situation is possible, because local situation will guarantee the relation between people face by face. It's more easy to imagine in the local situations than the metropolis, I think, this kind of event. And also second, so as a last, so example which we did in my university, this work project is relates to the second axis which I just mentioned. It's a global and local. Our university, the laboratory, makes a primary school in the Democratic Republic Congo. It's middle west of Africa. We designed the building design. We do the building design, and we go to the Congo every summer, and we work together with local people. And we use only the local materials. This is the exterior. And last summer, we completed the first building of the school, and 7 students from Japan and 10 young people of the local, they just work together. We bought the local materials, and of course, about the design, we check some structural strengths with the structure engineer in Japan, and we did this kind of works. This is the interior. This is just after the first day of the class at school, and the interior also finished. The school it's a kind of courtyard planning, and we did the first building in the center last year, and we will construct one building by 1 year, and means all 6 years will be completed with these schools. And we explain this project architecture with 3 themes of without. So architecture without the final form, architecture without enforcement means working together with locals, and architecture without accuracy, because they have no accuracies actually. So this kind of activity of us is a kind of be against the globalization. This is also one attitude to the locals. So now I invite Professor Bonsam. She will show her interesting research work of Bangkok and Tokyo. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. My name is Davisi Buntam. I am Thai, from Thailand, but I'm now teaching in Singapore and also do a lot of research in Southeast Asian and other Asian countries. So today I'm going to present to you about my ongoing research about creative city, more precisely about creative precincts, an area in the city where actually you can find and capture some creativity which is emergent in the city. So if I want to respond to what the chairman was introduced about what is, how this paper or this presentation I'm going to respond to, maybe it's more about the second axis that you mentioned, global and local. So this presentation is deliberately choosing these two metropolitans, which is Tokyo and Bangkok, but in the sense that how locality, the importance of the local ideas and then the local creativity is making this city. So the aims of this paper and presentation to raise the discussion about Asian creativity. So there's a lot of maybe discussion about, we used to see a book question about why Western are more creative than Asian. Or what is really the Asian creativity? What is, and how creativity is really possible and captured and doing something to the city. I would like to emphasize on local interventions. It's not a global, like big money, big developer, and doing something and changing the city, but more about the system where small little things, comes together and bringing a certain quality to the city. The focus is on the urban precincts, where the local, the small-scale interventions often possess a unique kind of power, characteristic of ordinary vernacular urban patterns. It's very important in Asian city. It's very different from European city, where you have a very construct urban tissue, a heritage area, some value of your urban form is more, like related to history, style, and constructed history. But more or less in a lot of Asian cities doesn't have this kind of, value. We have ordinary, something which is happened, vernacular type, or even ordinary type, which we consider normal, ugly maybe. But how, creativity can really make use of that and giving the new value into this kind of urban form. So these examples of the large metropolitan areas in Tokyo and Bangkok is deliberate. So I want to highlight the importance of the local and place, regardless the size of the broader urban or the other context. So, this slide shows my ongoing kind of mind map. What I'm doing now in terms of my research. So the main key is about creativity. It's not just a flat kind of 2 dimensions. Actually, there is the complex of the urban is not just that you can describe in 2-dimensional. But I just put them all together, words, pictures, and maybe to related them in to explain what is I'm doing now. So it's creativity, which is something within the city that you can really find it out and capture it from different scales, from the objects, which is, it can be considered like commodities and things like that, object into the package, the display, the boutique, shops, to the street life, the precinct, and finally at the city. So I used the example of Tokyo, Bangkok, and Singapore. This is ongoing research. At the same time, I'm relook into the built form of the city, various scale that you can find buildings in the city, from very existing local, ordinary, and banal architecture, range from the very small scale of XL into XS to the XL. So the basic theory, which is based on this research, is theory of consumption, because more or less we find a lot of this kind of movement in commercial districts, urban semiotic, phenomenology, placemaking, and creative city. At the same time, we observe in many cities in Asia, actually those areas and those activities which is considered creative are more related to arts, design, fashion. And actually what I capture is that there is a different type of giving the value to that particular object or even the built form of the city. So the value is not just for functional exchange, but more symbolic and sign value, which is actually discussed by Baudrillard. So, and I, at the end, asking the question about if this kind of phenomena, that small scale creativity by the local population, young designers, and the way that they make bottom-up kind of movement can really contribute to the sustainable urban regeneration. So I'm choosing the very few examples for this presentation from Tokyo and Bangkok. So I'm going to relook into the process and product of the requalification of the old urban places through the infusion of the new uses and creative activity which boosts the local economy. So the creative reuse together with the recycling of ordinary building stock has a potential to generate and regenerate the identity of the place and contribute to the overall urban regeneration. So the local creativity is various definitions and contributions of the sustainable urban regeneration. So in Tokyo, I'm choosing to speak about Shimokitazawa and Kichijoji. For Bangkok is Siam Square and Chatuchak Market. So if you can see this picture, also I took it some few months, interval. So the very, old, this is a kind of ordinary buildings in suburb of Tokyo. And suddenly one day, you can observe this kind of changing. Small entrepreneur take out the space, transform this, kind of very banal and create a new universe within that kind of spaces. So in Tokyo case studies, there is this mixed-use precinct where actually there's residential and commercial activities coexist. So the local creativity was driven by economic pressure to adapt the existing physical spaces to a new use. So expression of the local urban creativity are reflected in a variety of scales and forms, from the commodities to activities, design, the finest and responsive to the context. So let me bring you to Tokyo. So the area that I'm going to show you in this presentation is just these two areas, which are Kichijoji and Shimokitazawa. As you can see, it's outside of the Yamanote, which is kind of considered as a central Tokyo. These lines represent the railway system, which is the main kind of transportation of Tokyo. So, and the Tokyo Bay on the right-hand side. So the urban tissue, how it's related together, is constructed with the railway lines, so that how many cities, many nodes of Tokyo towns link together, and within that small little nodes, like in Kichijoji and Shimokitazawa, there is a kind of a neighborhood, we can say that, which is constructed around this train station. It's interesting when you go deeper to study the urban pattern. So it's very clear for Japan, everything is constructed around the station. You have the bigger nodes, which is more commercialized. You can observe that small, little, and fine-grained, traditional urban fabrics. In 3D, you can see that around the station they're getting bigger and bigger form, which is composed and gathered around the stations. These are the generic view of ordinary, what I mentioned about architecture, banal, ordinary urban form in the suburb. So you can have a very small scale and dense, kind of high density neighborhood, composed with this kind of house, variety of style and materials. But they are all, there is nothing really particularly interesting, except the one which is really designed by a famous architect. Some you can have a more interesting style and design, but majority of them are more or less like this. And we can find more and more of this type of architecture, more denser kind of residential, like guest house, mansion, and things like that. This is going to be, bigger and bigger, which replace this kind of suburb environment of individual house. So, such activity, which I focus on a series of pictures that I took, that there is small little kind of activities, inhabit into this kind of ordinary urban form, which I mentioned before. So these activities may seem as common for Tokyo, but characteristic effort by this small entrepreneur established the startup business, and subtlety of their small intervention, design which is kind of celebrate the quality of the ordinary and respect of the intimacy of space. It's a bottom-up approach which value a certain tradition and thus present a possible alternative to the equally common large-scale intervention by the corporate capital. So actually this kind of niche for all small little activities, and actually when it's come together in the neighborhood, it's totally changed the perception, changed ambience of the area. But I must say that this small example favored by this study is very localized. It depends on the location. It's not everywhere in Tokyo suburb can become creative precinct. So the location itself and the culture of the place provide a favorable conditions. So in such a situation, new interventions open up, the private spaces, which used to be a space for living and things like that, for public access, and reveal otherwise the hidden and intimate quality of the interior and humanize the overall environment. So you can see some examples. This one captured from Kichijoji. Just a small, simple house, and then suddenly you can just get in and have a coffee, and, or small little intervention in the garage, for example, this one, and then it's transformed into a kind of fashion incubator. And also Shimokitazawa, it's becoming kind of, this place for the vintage clothing. So people go to Shimokitazawa to buy second-hand cloth and, design their own dressing and so on. What I observe in Shimokitazawa, it's a phenomenon of, kind of front and back. You can see that around the train station, there is a very kind of aggressive, kind of commercial and very traditional. For example, the pachinko place, the drinking place, some traditional like soba shop and things like that around the station, which kind of predictable. And then once you just cross over into the neighborhood, into inside where the residential is, and from time to time you just see this kind of small, intervention like small bars, small drinking place, the new like Zaka shop with the accessory shop, the antique shop, or even kind of the donut shop, which is this one, a very, very local but new kind of way of doing. It's like that people are really, believe in their business. They are doing that because they love to do that. It's not because they want to have money, but they kind of into what they are doing. So this kind of creativity is not just being creative to make money, but it's more like you are creative, you want something to do it good, look good, for, to kind of fulfillment of your own as well. Question back into, is this process also a gentrification, which has happened everywhere in the world and many cities in the world, but maybe it's a special kind of gentrification, which stimulate the local economy. More or less, gentrification is, have seen like a negative side of society, kick out the local population, replaced by the new things. But in Japan, maybe this kind of thing is, this you can discuss about that. Is it, a good side or bad side? But which is true is stimulate the local economy, perpetuate the local flavors. Like in Shimokitazawa, for instance, is the newcomers to this area who are particularly active in the local movements, which is trying to defend the community and to repel the excessive development, which is, it's very, very tense now within, especially they want to cut the new route through the area, and then the local commercial, especially the newcomer who really believe in Shimokitazawa, want to defend for their community. So the main lesson to be learned from Tokyo maybe is very careful nurturing of the local creative consumption, which can contribute to the overall sensitivity for the local tradition and give the significant support to the maintenance. I'm going now move to Bangkok, my hometown. So I'm not going to touch on the hot issue on the political turmoil, what's happening now. We look into something which is more joyful. So Bangkok example is different from I'm picking up from Tokyo. The example is of the innovative adaptation of the existing traditional architectural and urban spaces, and especially the forms of commerce. The first example is Chatuchak Market. Maybe some of you have heard about that. If you mention Bangkok, one of the tourist destination, the biggest market in Southeast Asia. So there's over 10,000 stalls, in that area. So it's started in 1982. So it's not old. It's not like old bazaar in Turkey, which is 500 years old. This one is just 30 years. So it's established on the land of the State Railway, which is the market itself is under the city of Bangkok to take care about the facilities. This map just show you about the importance of the market. The original footprint is just like this form. And this is 30 years later, so you can see that how big it is take place now. So there's a new add-on of the market to the old existing one to kind of double up, which have different kind of learning from the successful of the old market and repeat, like enlarge the stall, make it higher and things like that. But what I'm going to speak about is the original market here. So it was kind of simple organization, just rows of stalls with plastic roof, and this is the original condition. Later on, the city of Bangkok just replaced with a more kind of durable material for the roof, and then add on some amenities, toilet, and floor pave, and cover roof for the along the corridor and so on. So what we can learn and we can observe in Chatuchak is the most rudimentary form of commerce, market, just stalls, and then you put your stuff in. But it has a cutting edge fierce of innovation. So each week you have a new design coming up into the market, with the energy of to make the complex, itself to take on the struggle between the banal commercialism and creative gentrification, especially around the store which rented by the designers. So the overall ambience of the market, you have street life, performance. Some stalls, they start to open up the stall. Very messy, but at the same time you have a kind of niche of different activities. The new product is launched into the market very easily because there is very low investment. So you just need space. You just design something, ask someone to produce and test the market within the marketplace. And there's more and more like this kind of designer shop of fashion or even accessories and so on. So second example from Bangkok is so-called the Siam Square, which is one area in Bangkok, which is in a very central area where the central station of the main transport, rail transport is. So it has a comparable experience that, like what I said before about Chatuchak market, but this one in the different typologies of building. It's a shop house typology. Also, Siam Square is not an old urban fabric. It's contemporarily built during 1960s and become a testing ground for creative adaptation with an energy which managed to keep the youth segments of the market faithful and itself perpetually young. So Siam Square, if you go on the website, you can see that its name has Thai Harajuku. So it's like the place where the young people gather together. There is a tuition school there, a lot of fashion precinct, eating area, and so on. So the area belongs to a university, Chulalongkorn University. This is a whole campus in the city center, and this is the Siam Square area. So during the 60s, the university just invest into their land to make a kind of area for commercialize the area. At that time, during 1960, this is the most common way of developer which changed the urban fabric in Bangkok. So shop houses with together with like supermarket or cinema or something like that. So I just touched on shop house a bit. Shop house, if you can, well, it's not common in Europe, but we have a kind of comparable morphology. So it's urban kind of buildings because it has to have a certain density, very narrow facade with deeper, a kind of longer inside the block. It has to build, in case of Bangkok, by in rows and subdivide into units. So the facade is about 3.5 to 4 meters. So in case of Siam Square, it's very ordinary. It's a simple facade repeating all around the place. So you have all over something like 500 to 800 units. All facade is same, nothing special. And then over the time, when the occupants occupy the form, they start changing, refabricating, and over time of 40 years of existing of the place, you can see that there's a lot of changes in terms of use. So you can see that there is that continuation of reuse, recycle of this kind of building. It's not for the original aesthetic, but only for that use and the very functional kind of the structure. So today there's a lot of changes. When I did my research in 1993, it's very curious because all the shops are occupied only on the ground floor. So I redo the same research again in year 2000. We start having the activity which is climbing up into a higher floor. And then recently I go back to the same site again and redo that kind of reading again. So now it's very obvious that there's a lot of the occupation which is the 4-story within the shop house, because At that time, maybe the ground floor is more important, more into the use which is directly into the public space. So we can find in Siam Square a lot of shops which is local brand, start up with a certain new design and new concept, like a cafe place which is local brand. The company, even eating place which is, you need just a staircase to connect to the ground and bring people up to the second, third, and fourth level and have a sitting area, which is not very common in Bangkok. But in Siam Square, this is the practice. Even, new kind of fusion food, or the brand, the international brand like Honda or Canon have to be occupy the place and transform itself into more young and response to the users' demand, like a cafe place plus the exhibitions of their product and so on. These are a lot of examples of the new brand which is happening in the area. So overall of Siam Square is total eclectic. So you can't say it's beautiful. It's not. But so it's about living, it's about experience, it's about ambience of the whole place. If you walk along this area, it's very vibrant, very energetic. So both Chatuchak Market and Siam Square offer examples of cutting-edge design and fashion creativity within the evolving but resilient physical fabric. In both of those examples, the bubbling creativity challenged the simplistic forms of commerce and produced the landmark places of Bangkok. So for conclusion, why it is hard to challenge the global capital. The example from Bangkok and Tokyo represented in this paper show how locally generated and locally attuned practices can present alternative solution and challenge or successfully hybridize the globalizing trends. So the shows the emergence of the creative city where the local quality established itself as a priority and the quality to be protected and nurtured. So such creative practices could lead to more sustainable urban regeneration of Tokyo and Bangkok themselves, and also offer the positive example to other cities, regardless their overall size. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bonsam. So it's really interesting example. She showed that the commercial space is, how to say, expanding or invading the residence space or public space. I just wonder if this kind of trend could make the new landscape or make the new public space. Maybe it's a very interesting point of view. So we will invite the second speaker, Professor Dostol Nesrihan from Bursa. Please have a presentation.